let's go back to the basic mechanics that are the core of this game. A number of years ago, a series of games came out that Victory Point Games did, and they included one called Battle for Moscow. And this is considered an iconic game, right? This is one of the most popular because it's a dramatic game, it's historically significant, it's easy to play, it's fun, it goes quickly. Fans of games like that said to Frank, said to Lance, said to Alan, why don't you guys just take that and stitch the same thing together over all of Russia for all the great battles? You know, there was a great battle for Smolensk, there was a battle for Kiev. You know, just stitch them all together, make this giant game. So the move, fight, move mechanism is exactly the same, right? All they're doing now is adding all the glue, right? Think of each of those games as the bricks, right? There's got to be mortar that connects them. So the growth in the rules and the additional rules now integrates all those blocks together so you can fight all of Russia the same way. This is the invasion of Russia. We don't really need our special move phase because we set up on the border ready to attack. So what we've just done is we've allocated the odds as we can see. Some of them are known because we know the strength of our opponents. Others are unknown. I'll come back to that. That's one of the best features of the game. They have a number of units that look like this, and it is going to be a surprise what this capability actually is. It might be motorized, it might be mechanized. It could be as weak as a combat factor of 1. It might be as strong as having an attack factor of 8 and a defense factor of 4. There's a lot of volatility in these, and we don't know until the Russian commits them to battle. Oops, where did I get it? I got it out of this city, excuse me. So there's a similar unit, they're infantry units. These are called their untried mechanized corps. Same thing. We're not sure what we're going to find until we attack them. Similarly for the Russian, he doesn't know what they're good for until he attacks with them. They could be strong, they could be weak. So that's a nice element of surprise. So when you look along here, you'll see here's 5 to 1 odds. We've already figured this out, but the next attack, important, we don't know yet. The next one down the line, we don't know. Here's a 2 to 1 attack. The next one, we don't know. Here's a 2 to 1. Here's a vital attack, and we don't know what we're going to face. The reason we're gonna hedge our bets now by adding one of the best strike fighter bombers that the Germans have, the Stuka. Right? And just so you know, we'll walk through an exercise later, but those 2 little lightning bolts are referring to the strength of that unit. We're going to get 2 dice for this, and we'll add the effects of those dice into the battle. So we're hoping that is going to turn the tide no matter what and assure a victory. And we do this all along the front. When it's the Russians' turn, they'll do the same thing. So we are getting ready now we've allocated all of our Air Force. We are ready to start rolling. So let's get the dice out. These are what we're going to use for close air support. And I'll point out here again, if we look at this Stuka, and we look at that lightning bolt, that's what you're looking for. Every time this die is rolled, and you get this particular result, that's going to be an odds shift in your favor, which is a great benefit. This is only red. If you look at, say, another aircraft, here's a Ju-88, it has the same lightning bolt, which says it can attack air to ground. But if you roll this red, it's not going to give you the benefit. It's just a miss. Right? So the Ju-88 has to look for other effects. It's rewarding the airplanes that were designed best to do close air support, not so much for other bombers. Okay? So we're going to keep this Ju-88 there to aid that attack because there are other results. These are exciting dice. Instead of just rolling normal dice and saying, I've increased my combat factor or something like that, these create odds shifts under different circumstances. So if my force has got armor, the tanks, this says I'll get an odds shift, and it only applies when I have armor in the attack. The double arrows show a circumstance in which I can shift it in the favor of the attacker or defender depending on who's rolling it. this is the most useful result because it doesn't come with any other conditions. I've already mentioned to you what goes on with the red lightning bolt. That's only certain aircraft that can do close air support. Of course, there is a no effect result, right? There's got to be a downside. Then there's this. This is a silhouette of a Stuka, but what it's there for is to say, if you've got an aircraft providing close air support and you roll this, that aircraft is going to be hit by anti-aircraft fire. It's going to be damaged. So you can't just maraud your aircraft across the front and raid with impunity. Anti-aircraft fire is going to get a chance at you. Other turns, not counting the beginning of Barbarossa, is going to feature the Russian Air Force and their chance to intercept. So there's several ways to get shot down in the game. This has turned out to be an exciting contributor to play balance. We have seen this, we've only been experimenting with this in the last couple of months. We really like it because some turns you go out and you just hammer the opposing forces and it feels like your air power is King Kong. Other times you end up rolling this, you still had success on the battlefield, but half your air force is shot up by anti-aircraft fire. Very demoralizing, but there again, that's the surprise, right? You want play balance, so it's not all the math. There's enough innovation in the game design to allow for unexpected and unintended consequences. And that's a good thing. So let's go down the line. Oh, we have our overruns. That's right, we have to do our overruns. Yep. Right, forgot about that. So I get to ignore zones of control.
As part of this Barbarossa rule.
Okay, this is the Blitzkrieg rule that we're following. So I'm going to move a Panzer Corps back here. I'm going to leave this one here. Actually, I'll bring that there. Now what I'm doing is making sure that there is no safe way for this to retreat. I'm going to move a Panzer Army back here. Actually, let's have this here. We're arranging for multiple attacks. This is going straight on this. Let's take advantage of this one to move headquarters. Of course, you know, the defense factor is an 8, so we're going to look for numbers that are multiples of 8. So I'm adding 24 and 8 here to get a 3-on-1. Or that'll be a 4-on-1, and then with special attack bonuses, we're going to increase the odds. Let me finish special movement, and I'll show you what that's about. So these are supporting this. These are supporting this. What do we got?
Can he get that far? You can only ignore one Zoc.
You only ignore one Zoc? Okay, this was their first, so they can go and do this as a second.
Yeah.
Right? This came across and did that, so that means this is going to have to stay there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about the motorized versus...
The motorized ignores all Zocs in the first.
This infantry, it can still move, but it's going to stop with the first with its first E-Zoc. The Panzer Army is a mobile unit denoted by the white 5. The white movement factor is on the right side. The first number is always the attack factor. If there's a middle number, that's going to be the defense factor. Units like this German Corps or that Russian Army only have one number. That combat factor serves as both their attack and defense factor. So this infantry is allowed to do what it's doing. This armor can go one additional hex because it's ignoring the first E-Zoc. So that's legitimate. We have to do our overruns at this time too. We don't have any illegal overruns yet. So now we can start rolling. Thank you. And notice this is part of the fun of playtesting. Whether you're Russian or German, our goal is to provide the best product for the players. So we're here about getting it right, and all of us are pitching in on both sides of the fence. Germans are helping Russians, and Russians are helping Germans to create the right playtest experience. So, should we start north to south? Or do you want to start south to north? Let's do north to south. All right, so we've got a unit here that we don't know what its defense is. So we're going to find out now. It's a weak one. That's good. That is only 2, and this is going to make this a defense of 4. I'm attacking with 1, 2, 3 units for a total of 20 combat strength. That is 5 on 1, so we're going to work on this table here. Okay, we roll a six-sided die. It does. Now, we have what we're doing. Can you find the Blitzkrieg card? Just hand me that. There are a special set of rules that go with this card. There's in fact a page of them. This is exciting, right? Every German that plays in these kinds of games lusts for the opportunity for this very turn. This is where the best combat arts are going to occur. And historically, the Germans went to a lot of effort to prepare this phase of the war. So there are... Go ahead. We flip this headquarters into active mode. We flip this headquarters into active mode. I'm going to take a moment to explain our headquarters. There's 2 types of modes for strategic headquarters. This with the solid circle around it is called attack mode. This with the dotted line around it is called the balance mode. Supply is going to govern the dynamics of the game. And so when your units are within range of the supply radius of their headquarters, that's when they're going to be most effective. When they move beyond that, they start to degrade in their effectiveness because they're frequently out of supply. Okay? This is their headquarters attributes in many war games. This is one that helps channel and vector the forces and the opportunities. All right, so it's, if you will, this is like the largest, most significant formation in the game. Where these headquarters are and what attack mode or balance mode they're in determines their behaviors. What's important about the attack mode is that white arrow. In Thunder in the East, every time you see a white arrow, that is going to mean that's an odds shift in favor of the attacker. Notice that on our close support dice, we have these arrows, right? There's a white and a red one. Now, the red one is something that the defender would be interested in. If you're the defender, in any case, a red shift goes your favor. Makes it harder on the attacker. Otherwise, the white shift is going to make it better in favor of the attacker. All right? When you're in balance mode, you notice there are no such arrows. So this has a greater supply radius, 8 hexes instead of 6, but it's not going to offer any attack bonuses or any specials. Right? So we want to make sure that we have our front completely in attack mode, and Army Group North and Army Group South have sufficient effectiveness to accomplish that. That means that every one of our attacks on the first turn are going to get an attack bonus. You know, it's a buff, right? We like buffs. We want to have that. In addition, the Blitzkrieg rule allows us to employ at least one of these with every attack. And then in addition to that, we are bringing our air power into the game. Every one of those lightning bolts for the aircraft is going to add still more dice. So we have many opportunities to increase the odds and get a favorable result. So one last time, scan the number of Russian units across this front. And in about 5 minutes, we're going to see that number diminish greatly. So let's begin Blitzkrieg. We're going to start and we're going to go north to south. So I don't have an odds marker on this one, but this is 12 and 8, 20 on 4, which is 5 to 1. And then thanks to this attack bonus, this is going to grow to a 6 on 1. Thunder in the East provides these player aids so that with large numbers of attacks, you don't lose track of them. It's like you don't want to get to the next turn and say, oh man, I forgot to do this. So now you've got markers to help you remember. All right, and there's other player aids we'll show you during the course of the game. So we have a 6-sided die. We have one close support die offered by Blitzkrieg. So let's see what happens. The first roll is a good one. Look at that. All right, we have a 5. Bigger is better in TitE, in Thunder in the East, so we're looking at a 6 on 1. It's shifted to 7 on 1 because of the armored die. We have an armored unit, so we're looking at that armored symbol. So that gives us a 7 on 1 with a 5 result. We come down here, and that is a natural breakthrough. Breakthrough means that we have destroyed everything in this hex utterly. So ceremoniously, we will now add these to the casualty map. One of the things we do in Thunder in the East is we keep track of losses because those contribute to morale. So there are several ways to win the game. One can win the game through taking objective cities. Another way is to crush the morale of different forces. Players who are experienced with East Front games in World War II will know that there are Axis minor allies. Hungary and Romania are in the war. Well, they don't have nearly the robust morale that the Germans and the Russians have. So keeping track of morale is very important. You can win the game with a morale victory, but the bigger danger is that the Romanians or the Hungarians might get knocked out of the war. Right? That's a big dynamic in play. But right now, we're accumulating morale point losses. The results allow us to make a legal stack we can occupy. This is legal, and now actually we can move from this as well, but we're already in the directions that we want to go. So all we're doing is consolidating these units. We don't need to advance them further. So let's move on. We have not marked this attack either, so that's 32 on 8. That's a 4 on 1. That becomes a 5 on 1. We have no aircraft on that, so we're rolling. Go ahead. Oh no, that's for this attack. The Hinkle 111s are there to support this. Oh, in fact, that's what we want to do. We want to try to surround this. So let's turn these over and find out what's there. That's kind of typical. That's a motorized unit with a strength of 3. Another one with 3. So this actually turns out to be a pretty good defense for them. 6 factors. We're only putting 24 in attack. 1 Panzer army goes against it. 24 divided by 6 is 4 to 1. With the attack bonus, it becomes 5 to 1. So briefly, we'll go to our markers and put 1 on. The difference now is we're adding the Luftwaffe. So we have 2 HE-111s providing close support. That adds 2 more dice to our basic attack on Blitzkrieg. So all this comes together. Wow. Okay, this is not bad for the Russians. All right, we get a good combat result. A 5 to 1, 4 is going to be a defender loss. All right, they will end up losing one of those units, and another one will be forced to retreat. We suffer 2. We have 2 shifts. Excuse me. What did I say? We said this was a 5 to 1. This gives us a shift up to 7 to 1. So now we have a breakthrough. Everything's going to be wiped out, but both of our HE-111s are now damaged. So we flip these, and you'll notice that these counters look different. They actually have an explosion on the aircraft to indicate that they are damaged. When we do our aircraft management step, we'll give you an example of that as we finish this particular action. We'll show why it's important to keep track of this, and this is an easy player aid to manage the status of the aircraft. So we're going to return these to the airfield right there. We'll come back and explain the air mat in a little bit. So that changed from a 5 to 1 to a 7 to 1 breakthrough. So we wiped out both. We joyously put them on the casualty map. We like to see our Russian comrades over there. This unit is going to advance. And because of the breakthrough, we want to push it 1 further. The reason we're doing that is we're looking to establish a zone of control. If this unit here is forced to retreat as a result of this 5 to 1 attack, we're going to hope to wipe it out. So this is a straight 5 on 1 with one of our Blitzkrieg die. That's sweet. 5 to 1, 6, another breakthrough. In fact, we didn't need the zone of control, it's simply wiped out. Our lightning bolt was wasted because we don't have aircraft to take advantage of that. So, this 8-4 transfers to the casualty map. We put the marker away. This particular unit here that we just destroyed is worth this many in morale points. Right, so this is the most effective kill we've had. That's a full point. It takes 2 of these core to get another point. So that was a very advantageous attack. It's moved. Now, notice how we have a zone of control advantage here when we attack this unit here. This is a 3-on-1. It gets 4-on-1 for the benefit in Blitzkrieg, and we have 1 aircraft supporting. If this unit is forced to retreat, it has to go there or there, and it's within zone of control of each of these Panzer armies. Therefore, it's subject to more step losses. So you use the mobility of your mobile forces, whether they be Panzer, motorized, mechanized, whatever. This is early in the war, so these formations are substantial for the Germans, not so much for the Russians. In later scenarios, the Germans have, or the Russians have tank armies, guards tank armies. They get their turn at having very compelling and effective forces in large numbers of them. So let's roll this attack and see what happens. All right, it's hot. So the 6 is a good result to start with, and we have an odd shift. So that's a 5-on-1 6, and we've already seen that is a breakthrough. That is a crushing defeat of another Russian rifle army. We turn the markers. We will take advantage of the opportunity to advance there. That vacated its spot, so we can go 1 more. That's thanks to the breakthrough. This, incidentally, is an objective city, so we'll no doubt take that during our regular movement phase. Okay, so that's this completes the first phase of Operation Barbarossa. We have invaded Lithuania and been very successful here. In this particular case, we're putting a lot of emphasis up here in Lithuania and Belarusia because we intend to drive this wedge this way and cut off the Russian forces here. Okay, that's going to take several turns to unfold. The next phase of this begins here, and we have a critical attack with Panzer Army against 2 units. We don't know what they are, so let's find out. They're weak. This is good for the Germans, right? Only 4 in defense. So that's a natural 6-to-1. It grows to 7-to-1 because of Blitzkrieg, and now we add Stuka with 2 more dice. There's no terrain there. Unfortunately, we're going to lose, so we're going to have our Stuka damaged. There was no effect on this dice. This gives us 2 odd shifts, so it went to an 8-to-1 with a 4. Check it out. No, you still get the benefit. You're just going to take a loss. It's not just that you lose the aircraft.
Well, no, I thought...
Go ahead.
I'll need to look it up. It's
check it out. That's what we're doing here. This is what playtesting is about.
Yeah, so...
During our early playtesting of this was called the AX shift. I believe you get the offensive benefit. The odd shift is there, but if you have supporting aircraft, each one of them has to take damage.
So it's full effect only if the advantage player has 1 or more undamaged mission planes, and then it gets flipped to damage. So I think one of them applies, he gets damaged, and then the other one won't apply because you don't have undamaged.
Got it. So now what we're going to say is this is really not an 8-on-1 4. We're going to say it's a 7-on-1 because this one didn't have an aircraft to go with it. There was 1 Stuka. This applies. So now it's a 7-to-1 4. Defender eliminated. Okay, so they are gone. But it's an important distinction, right? So it's kind of intuitive with that interpretation. You get the die if you have that aircraft. If you didn't have those aircraft there, you wouldn't get the effect. Okay, so this returns to the map damage. Already a bad precedent. 3 of 4 German bombers are already damaged, so they're going to take next turn to repair. This is the price you pay for an offensive opportunity. So thanks to that result, Defender Law, or what did we have? We had a DE, but we treat them all as breakthrough.
another blitzkrieg rule.
That's another blitzkrieg rule. So we advance the one that's allowed by TitE, and then we're going to move again. What we are trying to do is to create a hammer and anvil. We're going to use this as a zone of control block. Now we're going to attack here, also with Stuka support, to create another opportunity. And if we're successful, then we'll attack the rest of those Russians and try to drive them into the zones of control of these penetrated Germans and disintegrate that line. So here we have 24. We don't know what's here. Let's find out. 3, 2. Okay, again, the middle number is the defense factor. So that's 5. We have 24 on 5, so that's a natural 4 on 1. Now, if you can see, there is a river here. It's very light and pale. We use a lot of subdued colors in the map so that the units stand out. But there is a river there. All of our units are attacking across the river, so they're going to lose an odds shift. So the 4 on 1 goes down to a 3 on 1. The attack headquarters bonus is going to raise that back to a 4 to 1. Okay, so we have exactly a 4 to 1 opportunity against those. We have our basic blitzkrieg benefit die. We have the 2 additional die for the Stuka. So let's see what happens on this. Wow, that's a lousy roll. The Panzer is wasted. We're going to get 2 odds shifts. 1 is always bad. So our 4 to 1 goes to 6 on 1. 6 on 1 is a defender retreat. So I believe we get the choice. The attacker gets the choice. So none of those units were destroyed. We want to push those back.
By attacker. Yep.
Is it by attacker? All right. So yada 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 yada. Why don't we run them away? Since they're stacked together, we're not going to be able to over them. If we push them that way, that's a good thing. So blitzkrieg rule: any advance after combat can be treated as a breakthrough. So we've achieved what we wanted. Even though we didn't destroy those Russian units, we can now advance that there as part of the breakthrough benefit in blitzkrieg. So the next 3 attacks we do here in the north are going to have the benefit of having surrounded the Russians. If they retreat into a zone of control, they're going to be destroyed. So let's find out. What will we do?
Motorized brakes.
The infantry does not. Okay, we're stuck. But zone of control extends to the 6 hexes immediately around one of these units. So this unit extends the zone of control there. This armor extends the zone of control there. So we still have the blockage we're looking for. It should still work. The trick should still work. So let's try. Let's go down the line. We have in here paratroopers and cavalry holding that line. We're attacking with the 10 strength army. So that is a 2 to 1. Our attack bonus makes it 3 to 1, but again, if you look carefully, there is a river here. So we know that we're back to 2 on 1 odds. Let's see what happens. We have 1 Ju-88. So we miss with 1 bonus, we get a shift, and we have a 4. So that 2 on 1 becomes a 3 on 1, 4. Defender retreat. That's what we're looking for. Every hex that a unit retreats, if it's in a zone of control, it's going to be destroyed. 1 step is going to be destroyed. Each of these units happen to be 1 step. So their choices are to go here or here. Okay, this exerts the zone of control there. This exerts the zone of control there. So one of these is going to go. In the next hex choice, independent of which one they choose, it's the same dilemma. So normally the defender is going to get a chance to choose which one of these takes their loss. Actually, it's described in each of the combat results. Sometimes it's the attacker's choice, sometimes the defender's. In this case, both of these will be eliminated as they have to go 1-2 or 1-2. Either result, and their goose is cooked. They're finished. So that 2 to 1 is done, and now we're going to advance with this to make this even more congested. Alright, so now let's do this attack here. This is a mystery. We don't know how good that is. Let's take that aircraft out. Ah, it's a 3. We're only attacking with 8, so it's 2-1. There is no river along this hex line, right there where my thumb is. So that means that we're not suffering the penalty. Oh, excuse me. This is the hex that doesn't have the river.
Okay, Woods has a river, the other one doesn't.
Is that
Just
true?
That one doesn't.
Oh, you're right. You're right. This particular hex right there, this is what we're looking at. So notice how the river snakes its way around. Okay, again, it's subtle. You have to look for that. So we're not going to suffer any river penalties. 8 on 3, 2-1.
Yeah.
We have 1 aircraft supporting. This is going to grow to 3-1. So this is an odd shift to take it to 4-1. It's a 4-1-5, and 4-1-5 is defender loss. That means it's going to lose a step. This particular unit has only 1 step, so it goes to the casualty map. Finally, we have an attack here. This is 2-1, 10 and 6. Oh, yeah, we have an advance after combat, so let's move that. Remove our Ju-88. Okay, there's a river in here, so our 2-1 odds are reduced to 3-2, and then the headquarters attack bonus takes it back to 2-1. And we have our Blitzkrieg die and 1 Ju-88. Wow, we got 2 odd shifts in our favor, so now it's a 4-1-3 and a 4-1-3. Wow, defender retreat, just exactly what we were looking for. Now this unit has 3 steps to it. This is a full strength army, so there's a possibility it might get away. Let's find out what happens to it. It's our choice as the attacker. Let me look here. Defender retreat. All defending units are retreated 2 hexes by the attacking player. 1 attacking unit may then advance after combat. Now we have to choose. We're obliged by the rules to pick the path that is going to be the most favorable. So if we look this way, there's an open chance here. So it's going to lose a step. The first step is on the flip side, and then it goes a second space. Now here's a problem. This is interesting. This stacking is not allowed, so it's going to lose another step. If it goes here, it loses a step. If it goes here, it loses a step. So one way or the other, it's going to lose a step. Since each of those are allowed, if you will, there's no one that's worse than another, we'll leave it on this side of the river where it's easier to surround. Right? We're going to try to pocket those right there and eliminate them. So we have to get what we referred to these as mystery meat. This is a surprise. We don't know what they are. So actually, I tell you what, we have another opportunity. Since it's going to lose 1 more step, we're going to put it right there. And the reason for that is that is going to be an easy overrun opportunity. German armor, for that matter Russian armor, any of the heavy armored units in the game that have an attack factor of 10 or better are allowed to overrun single-step units in combat. So we're about to have our regular movement phase. This is deploying this in such a way that it's going to be easy to find an opportunity to do that. So that helps us. We return this Ju-88 back to this field, and you notice that Daniel is taking advantage of the opportunity to advance after combat. So, very briefly again, you know, look at here and remember how many red units there were on that front, and it's now largely broken open. That is the shock and awe of the first turn of Barbarossa for the German player. Now Daniel and I strategized to have an opportunity here to overpower the Russians in the north, in Belorussia and in Lithuania. This was a conscious choice. We have more armored power here. There's less in the south. We're going to try to shift this to the south and encircle these forces there. So Daniel has 2 attacks of his own in this area. Let's turn it over to his rolls and see what he does. Daniel, you have a pair. Which one do you want to do first?
5 to 1 here. We have a single Romanian aircraft in support. So, blitzkrieg bonus dice, aircraft dice. We have a 4 at 5 to 1. 6 to 1.
This is an odd shift, right?
It's a damage.
Yep, well, that's another odd shift, right? Because you have an aircraft, right? So we now have, that was a 5 to 1? No, that was a 4 to 1, right?
Yeah.
So it's now 5 to 1, 6 to 1. A 6 to 1 4 tells us what? 6 to 1 4, DL.
And a loss.
Okay, so it's going to take a step immediately, and now it retreats. You get to choose where it's going to go.
It has to go there initially.
Right?
I only have 2 choices, be there or there.
I say push it to the south myself.
Go there.
Send it to Hungary.
This advances to there. That's damaged.
That's right.
It goes into that.
We'll share the consequence of this with you in a moment. That's we're getting a lot of damaged aircraft on the first turn, which makes them unavailable in the next turn. Notice him nodding in a positive direction. Say it again, right?
Yep.
In yesterday's play test, we used a series of air offensives against the Russian Air Force to just obliterate them on the ground and try to take them out of the game for the first couple of months. That's an exaggerated effect that we were deliberately looking for. Today we're changing our strategy because, as is true to playtesting, if we find something that's a gimmick that you can break easily, okay, maybe that's not what we intended. So the designers have been taking our feedback and revising the rules overnight to create more balance, right? Prevent extremes like that from happening. So we now have a very important attack here. Let's unveil what's underneath there.
I don't know what's there. There's a 2. There's a 3 defense. And then there's a 4. 9 there.
No, there's 8. 3 and 3, 6, 7, 8. Right? The defense is 8. We were gambling on 7.
So 22 to attack and move across the river.
And in a forest. But we have air power.
We have airport.
So 22 on 8, 2 to 1. Goes down to 3 to 2 for the forest, down to 1 to 1 for the river, back to 3 to 2 for the attack bonus. So we have a 3 to 2. We have 1 additional die for close air support. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, we've got an important odd shift, so it goes up to 2 on 1. It's now 4 results, so 2 on 1, 4. The defender has an option.
Oh, it's DO.
Okay, it's a DO.
Which means the options are either I can retreat without loss, so I can retreat without loss, or I can stand in place and suffer a step loss. And I think I want to preserve the line. So this 2, 3, 4 will be lost to preserve the line. And everybody else stands in place.
And that's
So he's maintaining the integrity of his defensive line as best he can. That was a conscious choice on his part. And it works against our plans. Now Daniel and I had projected, we had calculated that was going to be a defensive 7. So 22 versus 7 would have given us 1 better odds. This underscores how cool it is to have those units with question marks, right? You just don't know, right?
defender retreat on the same roll.
Yeah, that would have been a defender retreat, a forced retreat, and we would have gotten what we were looking for. You know, penetrating his line and setting it up for exploitation. So, we're going to do a regular move, but come on over here and get a look at this air map. This is another interesting thing.
And take it away.
All right, very good. All the air power of this game is managed on this one map. So instead of bogging the game down with distinct air bases and locations from which aircraft have to fly, which just takes more time on the map to sort out the logistics and managing of those counters, the aircraft are in 3 states: either available to fly, they've flown missions, and they might be destroyed. So there are status for these aircraft as you flip them. So for example, we're about to have our fighter aircraft, the Germans, do airfield raids against the Russians. That hasn't yet occurred, but we're about to do that. Here are all the missions that you just saw us flying in the first turn of Barbarossa. All right, so these aircraft here are not damaged. These aircraft are. So on a subsequent turn, readiness always improves 1 level. These aircraft will be able to move up and fly again. These aircraft will end up being turned over. They'll lose a turn going through that, right? So all of that anti-aircraft fire that we saw during the first turn of Barbarossa was effective. There are 10 strike aircraft units. They each represent about 200 to 400 aircraft. Did you run out of battery?
Yeah, Brad. Oh, wait.
Maybe not?
Almost. Yep. Keep
Okay,
going.
well anyway, we've lost almost half of our strike capability on the first turn. It's going to have to wait another full turn. It'll come back on the July 2nd turn. Here is space for damaged aircraft that are destroyed. So if you can imagine, combat results in air-to-air might actually kill an aircraft. Also, there are new aircraft that are coming into the game. They show up as destroyed from the order of battle.